This is the Alien movie where Ellen Ripley is really good at basketball. It was during that time period of the late 90s, early into the early 2000s, where you had like a character who had superpowers or something or unique abilities, and filmmakers, directors, writers, and studios were like, how do we showcase this character's abilities? And I assume some, coked out executive went, make him play basketball really good. For those that don't know, I am a huge fan of Alien and Aliens. So great. I think those movies are excellent examples of fantastic sci-fi horror. They complement each other so well. And there are some other entries in the Alien franchise I enjoy, but I have to admit, there's a lot of bad Alien movies. Sadly, there are more bad Alien films than good Alien movies. But I've realized, after recently watching Alien Earth, which is the first TV adaptation of the Alien cinematic franchise, and I've really enjoyed it for the most part. I have some criticisms. I've realized that, oh my God, I've watched all the Alien movies and its TV show. And now I can do a definitive ranking of the best and the worst films in this franchise. And I've often talked about the Alien films on my streams and on my other videos and platforms and things. The franchise that I am invested in, clearly. There's so much I appreciate about it, from its characters, its world building, its aesthetic, and also its creatures, like the xenomorph, the alien, and its entire life cycle, from egg to facehugger to chestburster to drone and the warrior and the queen, like all that. I just think it's so cool. It's such a unique design. It's just one of the greatest movie monsters created in the 20th century, and has since been resuscitated to a degree. I feel like with the at least commercial success of something like Alien Romulus, and also the success of something like Alien Earth. Although the franchise has had its peaks and it's had its valleys. I want to talk about it, chat. So without further ado, let's get to it. I have I guess 10 movies and TV shows that I can break down. And at number 10, and this comes at no surprise, I have Aliens versus Predator Requiem. Not only is this the worst Alien movie in the Alien franchise, it's also the worst Predator movie in the Predator franchise, and it's one of the worst movies I think ever made. It's one of my worst films. It just fails at everything. It's directed by the brothers Strauss, which is such a pretentious name. Just call yourself the Strauss brothers. Why call yourself the brothers Strauss? Who came from a VFX background, and they did movies like Skyline or something. But Alien versus Predator Requiem, it took, I guess, some of the fun stuff from the original Alien versus Predator and just completely shit all over it. Like, nothing is enjoyable about this movie. From the way it looks, to the story, lack thereof, or to the characters. It's just all bad across the board. You can't even tell what's happening in this goddamn movie most of the time. The cinematography is so wretched. The lighting is so piss poor because you can't even tell. Like when they have these big climactic battles between the Predator and the aliens and the Pred-Alien, which has been a fan favorite, the idea of a Predator being impregnated and this hybrid coming out. It's like, oh, it's the best of both worlds. Somehow they made that so lame. You don't give a shit about any of the characters here. Most of the characters are just there to be meat. Just there to die in horrific ways, not even very entertaining ways. All the ways in which they die you've seen before, whether it be in the Alien franchise or in the Predator franchise. Just very uninspired. You have characters that are just named after characters from the Alien movies or the Predator movies. It's just everything about the film is derivative, right? And it just displays no competence whatsoever. It's such an incredibly frustrating movie. But yeah, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, it is, to me, easily the worst film in the Alien franchise, Predator, and just one of the worst movies of all time. It's such a wretched film across the board. At number 9, chat, I have Alien Covenant. Now, I only have one good memory of Alien Covenant. It has nothing to do with the film, actually. It's like nothing to do with the movie or the story or the characters or anything. Actually, I've talked about this several times on stream. My favorite thing about Alien Covenant is that I went to a special anniversary screening of the Alien Director's Cut, the original 1979 film. And the director's cut's great. I went to South by Southwest a number of years. It was either the year or maybe the year before Alien Covenant came out. And before they showed the director's cut, which was also my first time seeing Alien in the theater, which was a wonderful experience, and the director's cut in a theatrical experience, they had the director of the movie come out, Ridley Scott. He was drunk off his ass during the entire presentation. He must have just been drinking or pounding drinks in the green room beforehand, because he waddled out and he just gave this, I don't know if he's just struggles of public speaking, but he just was barely coherent and barely made any sense while talking about Alien and its legacy. And then he kind of went into like Alien Covenant and talking about that film and how he's like, well, after the success and love of Prometheus, I just couldn't stop working in this franchise. And to present the director's cut and also footage from this movie, from Alien Covenant, he welcomed the stars. He forgot all of the stars' names, Chad, all the actors in Alien Covenant, the leading stars. He couldn't remember Catherine Waterston's name. He couldn't remember Danny McBride's name. He couldn't even fucking remember Michael Fassbender's name. He couldn't do it. He was like, Cat, he couldn't do it. And then at one point, like, when he was struggling to say Danny McBride's name, Michael Fassbender was like, fuck, we're going to get this over with. He just walked out on stage with Danny McBride. We got to fucking wrap this shit up. And then they proceeded to show the 15 minutes of footage from the film, which is a lot of footage, I feel like, for a movie that, like, hadn't come out. And all the scenes that they showed from the movie were all the death scenes from that film. Like the entire sequence, like of the guy getting infected, like that stuff going into his ear, and then the backburster coming out, and then her fighting that thing and it attacked her face, and then fighting on the ship. All that was shown in the footage. They had the scene with Billy Crudup dying, having him get impregnated, having that thing, rough from his chest. They showed that. They had Juicy Smoulier. They had his death scene, the shower chat, his girlfriend getting got. That was a scene that was showed. The one girl that got her head chopped off, bitten off by one of the weird fucking CGI xenomorph protomorphs in this movie. They showed, it was like every major death scene in the film, aside maybe from one, maybe from like they showed James Franco getting set on fire. I was like, God damn, everything was shown. And then I saw the Alien Director's Cut, and that was great. That was a wonderful theatrical experience. But this movie, again, coming off of Prometheus, which in my opinion was extremely disappointing. I was so excited for this movie. It just kind of doubles down everything that I disliked about Prometheus, where let's just showcase a bunch of annoying, stupid scientist characters that are all touching shit they just should not touch, right? And all of them die. And you don't like any of them. They're not very interesting. They're just derivative versions of characters that we've seen before. Like Catherine Waterston, she's just another Ripley, pretty much. That's what she is, even down to her overall look. And even like the best element of Prometheus, which was Michael Fassbender's David. In that movie, I actually liked him. Here, he essentially becomes a parody of himself. He's a mustache-twirling villain that just wants to just turn all these people into his experiments, which that's fine, but they just have him say this ridiculous dialogue, and he's overacting his ass off throughout the entire film. He's at an 11. I mean, who can forget the iconic line of "you blow and I'll do the fingering"? I mean, when you say that out loud, when you write that, and then when you say that out loud, don't you realize like what that sounds like? It's truly bizarre, utterly bizarre. And it's everything you've seen before from the Alien franchise. Like even the Alien, it's weightless. There's so little practical effects when it comes to Alien. I think in most of the part, it's 100% CGI, and it's just so bizarre that Scott, who directed the original film and had those wonderful practical effects, doesn't lean into it in this movie. He's like so many directors of his era, of his time, whether it be George Lucas or Steven Spielberg, where they forget the aesthetics of their own films. And that's the other thing about the aesthetics. Like, I hate the fact that despite this movie being a prequel to the events of Aliens, like all the technology is far more futuristic than it should be. Everyone has fucking touch screens. Everything is like holograms. Like, why does it look this way? It's like the Star Wars prequel effect. It doesn't make any sense. And so the one element that they had that I like from Prometheus, they carried over. They messed that up with David. It's just, of the standalone Alien films that's not like the crossovers with with Predator, I think it's the worst one. And of course, it leaves off on a cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger that will probably never be answered. At least I hope not. I know some people want Ridley Scott to complete his, I don't even know what you call this trilogy, his Prometheus trilogy, Alien Covenant trilogy. I don't even know. I really just don't care. I would be very happy if we just forget this and just move on with all these other projects, the next sequel to Alien Romulus and another season of Alien Earth. Thank you very much. That's what I would prefer. And number 8, Chad, I was just talking about it. I have Prometheus. Now, I'm going to say this. I had such high hopes for this film. I think most of us did. I think a lot of us did. The Alien franchise was on the rocks. Had a lot of disappointing sequels, 3, 4, the AVP movies. And when it was announced that Ridley Scott was kind of going to come back and he was going to do a movie within the Alien universe, I was excited. I was like, oh, they're getting the guy that did Alien. One of the greatest sci-fi horror films of all time. What a lot of people consider still to be the best Alien film. Go back and forth with Aliens, right? I was like, oh, this is perfect. I was like, sounds great. Cast looked really good. And then the trailers, the marketing was perfect. Like the editing for that made me so excited, and the music. And I was like, oh, we're gonna explore the origins of the xenomorph and how they came to be, and early Weyland-Yutani and the corporation. And I was like, all right, this all looks really good. And I was really psyched for it. And then I saw the movie, and I was so profoundly disappointed because I was so excited for it. It just suffers from so many problems. One, just a really piss poor story where we follow this group of scientists who are supposed to be the best scientists in their field, to go on this journey to find the origins of essentially humanity, how we came to be on the planet Earth, which we see in the beginning of the movie where that giant naked, white guy is like, I'm going to drink this goop. Ah! Then he melts. I was like, oh shit, we're going to find out what that has to do with the aliens. Cool. The engineers, the space jockey for the first film. And we just then proceed to see all these scenes where these extremely supposedly smart scientists start doing the dumbest shit imaginable, just taking their helmets off on an unknown alien world that they never set foot on before, just breathing all those microbes and toxins and whatever else, going ahead and touching a shit ton of black goo. Oh, I'll get to the goo. Reaching out and trying to caress and pet a vagina snake, just doing, at first being scared of, at first being terrified of aliens, of dead aliens. But now you're totally fine with interacting with a crazy looking fucking vagina. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then again, I go back to the aesthetic thing. For whatever reason, even though this is a prequel, everything looks far more futuristic than anything that we saw in Aliens. It's why is that? Why is everything touchscreens? Why is everything holograms? None of that is in Aliens. That's a utilitarian future. It's what we thought in the 70s and 80s the future would look like. It's dark, it's grimy, and gritty. Why is everything fucking clean? It's that weird prequel effect. And then you just have the black goo, which is so lame. We all love talking about the Alien franchise and, hypothesizing, coming up with different ideas. Where did the aliens come from? Are they just a super invasive, deadly species? Or are they a biomechanical bioweapon created by this alien civilization? We don't know. And that's fun to talk about. It's fun to present certain things, but we're just not sure. But Prometheus answers that question, and I think it's really lame, where the aliens all came from black goo. That's where they came from, this substance that can literally do anything. And it's just such a lazy thing where it's well, we're introducing this element. It can do anything you want it to. It's just that's kind of dumb. If you have this option, then it doesn't feel like there's any stakes anymore. It lessens the mystique. You've taken away the mystique of these creatures. The one positive thing that I'll say about this movie, about Prometheus, is Michael Fassbender's performance as David. He is an interesting character. Again, the series is typically filled with a lot of interesting synthetic characters. They just get a lot to do whether they be good or evil. And here he's just doing, nefarious shit, and it's fun, and he's just giving a very charismatic performance, and you do enjoy watching him. It's they ruin the character in the sequel, obviously, where he essentially becomes a parody of himself. But at least I can praise that. It's like I do like what he's doing in this movie. At number seven of my definitive ranking of the Alien movies, I have Alien 3, or some people call it Alien Cubed. The making of this movie is far more interesting than the movie itself. All the different ideas they had for this film. I mean, everything from, one of the original ideas where Ripley, in case they didn't get Sigourney Weaver back, it was going to focus instead on Bishop and Hicks and their adventure on this kind of Soviet, Russian-controlled space station. And the aliens were going to be more like a disease where people were like, we're turning into aliens. They had ideas of a world that was or a space station completely made out of wood, a wooden planet, and they had all these monks on there. They had some ideas for our characters to get stuck on a prison planet or a prison space station. Eventually, they just combined all these ideas into Alien 3. Even like the market of the film, as they were marketing the movie before it eventually came out, they were promising all these things that just didn't happen. The idea that, the alien is finally coming to Earth. On Earth, everyone can hear you scream. That was part of the tagline. It had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with the movie. And then the movie itself, which of course was directed by David Fincher, though I don't blame him at all. He was coming off of doing music videos, and the studio, 20th Century Fox, just fucking railroaded him. And, he's since disavowed the film and saying that the movie was taken away from him, and he was just kind of forced to get it to the end of the finish line. Like how this movie even starts, I think is very insulting. Like literally killing beloved characters from the previous one before the credits finished. Like killing Hicks off screen, killing Newt off screen. It just immediately just left a nasty taste in your mouth, a very sour taste in your mouth. And it's just such a nihilistic movie. And it's very derivative of the first film. It tries to do everything the first film did, but it just feels lesser in every single capacity. Plus, like so many of the characters introduced this film, you can't even tell who anyone is. Everyone is white, bald, and British, right? Because like on this prison planet, they have like a lice epidemic and everyone shaved their heads. I'm like, I don't even know, like characters will die. I'm like, I don't even know who the hell just died. I don't even know who that character is. They're just kind of meat for the grinder, essentially. With the exception of Charles Dutton. He's black, bald, and American. He did have that. And then a lot of the special effects just felt really dated. You had the stop motion alien, which is the first time you had like a lot of stop motion being used in the franchise, and it just makes it feel ancient. It makes it feel like a Harryhausen film or something. And just the idea of the runner, it just came off as a lesser version of the drone. I like that it kind of had a definitive end, I guess, for Ripley. It's such a sad ending. Ripley being impregnated, somehow an alien A got on board. We don't know why. It was just retcon. You can just tell that the screenplay was a complete mess. The ideas didn't make any sense. Fincher was just suffering because of what the studio was putting him through. It was a really disappointing initial conclusion to the alien story, to Ripley's story, especially after just the elation we all felt, her victory in Aliens, had that almost immediately taken away from the beginning of the movie, and just her fucking suffering throughout the entire film. Like the movie has its defenders. I'm just not one of them. It's like I can appreciate some of the ideas. The prison planet, I think that's a cool setting. There's some aesthetic stuff that I appreciate, but the camera work, especially for the first time we really see from like an alien's perspective, like that was interesting. But everything else, all the character stuff, all the big set pieces and moments, it just didn't work for me at all. Didn't work for a lot of people. And at number 6, I have Alien Resurrection. Yes, I think Alien Resurrection is much better than Alien 3. Now, This is the Alien movie where Ellen Ripley is really good at basketball. It was during that time period of the late 90s, into the early 2000s, where you had like a character who had superpowers or something, or unique abilities, and filmmakers, directors, writers, and studios were like, how do we showcase this character's abilities? And I assume some, coked out executive went, make him play basketball really good. And that's what we do, chap, because Ellen Ripley is dead. This is technically not Ellen that we knew from the original trilogy. This is her clone, Ripley 8. And it's set 200 years after the events of Alien and Alien 3. And you have, I don't know, Colonial Marines or some organization are like, we want aliens, we want xenomorphs, let's clone Ripley, because I guess she left a lot of her DNA around. And since she was pregnant with the queen, alien, we can get that out of her. But I guess something went wrong along the way, and their DNA kind of mismatched and really goopy. And so they got their queen, but they also got like a weird human-alien Ripley hybrid, right? And again, she's not the same Ripley that we knew. She's a little more sensual. She's a little more sexual. She's confused. She has these memories, but they're technically not really her memories. So she's not really Ripley. It's very sexual. It's very erotic, which I guess the franchise has always been. But it's like French erotic. It's French sexual. And that's always gets a little weird, right? I would say like the best element of this movie is probably the mercenary pirate group that finds a lot of these, xenomorph eggs and sells them and stuff, and gets the people to be impregnated by the company. It's like, I like them, Ron Perlman stuff. I think he's pretty fun. But just everything else about the film, it just it feels like, funny enough, where Alien 3 feels like a derivative version of Alien Resurrection feels like a really derivative version of Aliens. The only highlight being, the crew of mercenaries, which, funny enough, it was written by Joss Whedon, and that was kind of like the early progenitor of Firefly. So that was kind of cool. I did like that aspect of the film, but everything else, the newborn, weird, super overly sexual, Ripley playing basketball, just did not care for it. But the crew of the ship, pretty goddamn cool. Like Brad Dourif, he was a little bit of weird. He was a little weird in the movie. Very, very. He wanted to jerk off to those aliens, man. He was like, God, give me some of that xenomorph D. Very, very bizarre. Very French. And that's why that's number 6. And at number 5, chat, this might come as a surprise for a lot of people, but at number 5, I have the first Alien versus Predator. Of course, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Not Wes Anderson. Not Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson. A lot of Andersons out there, chap. And listen, this movie, of course, it throws Alien and Predator into a fucking match, and they just beat the shit out of each other throughout the events of this film. This is a big, dumb WWE wrestling match between these two iconic movie monsters, okay? That's what this movie is essentially all about. Yeah, you got some human characters in there, and they find a pyramid in Antarctica because the aliens built the pyramid, right? I was doing that craze. And they go there, and they activate the pyramids, which essentially is a trap used by the Predators to impregnate a bunch of dumb humies, with xenomorphs. And the Predators go down there, and they hunt the xenomorph. That's essentially what they do, Chet. And they just, throw down, and it's a nice slugfest. And I appreciate it for that. Do I remember any of the characters in the film? No. I can barely remember anyone. I did like the idea of the human and the Predator kind of teaming up, which we're gonna kind of see that explored, which has been already explored, in books and comics before, right? Because you can communicate with the Predators, you can negotiate with the Yauta and all that, and that's fun. And I feel like that will be better executed in Predator Badlands. We'll see. But yeah, it's just pure dumb fun. But I'm not going to get mad at anyone that says this is a bad movie. It is much better than Alien vs. Predator Requiem, I might say. And I think it's certainly more fun than something like Resurrection or Alien 3, which is so nihilistic. So I can see a lot of people not liking this movie. And there's plenty to not like, plenty to dislike and critique. But it at least knows what it is, and it wears it on its sleeves. It's gooey, acid-ridden sleeves, chat. At number 4, I have the most recent Alien movie, theatrical Alien movie, and that is Alien Romulus. Now, going into this film, I was initially concerned. Fede Alvarez was the director and co-writer, And while I think he's a good technical filmmaker, he's a good director, I think he's an awful storyteller. I just really don't care for the characters and stories that he's told in his Evil Dead remake or Don't Breathe. I think he really struggles with that. But he knows how to create a mood. He knows how to create some great action sequences, some great horror sequences in those movies, and that's on full display in this film. On a technical level, an aesthetic level, Alien Romulus perfectly replicates the look of the original Alien films, the first two. He does a great job with that. We also have some really good characters, especially an incredible performance by David Johnson, who plays the synthetic Andy. Love him in the movie. Such a unique take on a synthetic character in this franchise, which is filled to the brim with some really cool synthetic characters. And I feel like the first half is pretty strong, essentially following this crew of 20-somethings. They want to escape this colony, which is essentially they're slaves working for Weyland-Yutani that has imposed these restrictions on them, these travel restrictions, and they want to find these cryopods so they can go off to the free colonies and live a much better life, right? And of course, they find these cryopods, or they know the cryopod's location on this space station, which is the Romulus space station, but it has captured the xenomorph from the original movie, which Ellen Ripley fought, and chaos had ensued, and they have to deal with all the horrific monstrosities and experiments that were on that space station. And I think that's a good setup. I think that's a good premise. A nice prequel-sequel idea. The problem is the second half of the film, it just, for whatever reason, it just really drops the ball. Where it just does a lot of unnecessary callbacks to the original movies, brings back a weird deepfake CGI Ian Holm as Ash, and I know his name is Rook, but he's essentially Ash, and that was like the first moment I went, ooh, I don't know about this. This really doesn't work, and it's very distracting. And then they bring in the black goo. And as soon as you tried to connect this to Prometheus and Alien Covenant and the black goo, I'm like, why are you doing this? It's going to get stupid. And lo and behold, it gets really fucking stupid really quick when you bring that substance in. And it sets up, I think, a ridiculous laugh out loud second half, certainly ending, third act, where for whatever reason, Fede Alvarez just recreates the ending to Alien Resurrection. That's what it is. It just feels like a hodgepodge. Like the back half is just a hodgepodge of all these different ideas and scenes and sequences taken from all the other Alien movies, whether it be the first two or even its lesser sequels. It's just really bizarre. And it just really took me out of the movie. Dialogue callbacks, get away from her, you bitch. Which is supposed to be like get the theater, get the crowd going. But to me, it's just kind of cringe. It's pretty embarrassing. It's a movie that had so much promise. It has really good things in it. But man, that second half really undoes a lot of the goodwill I had going in. And as time goes on, I just think of it, I just don't really hold it in very high regard anymore, or really ever did. It becomes lesser and lesser in my mind over time. Although, I would argue, and I think many would, is it the third best Alien theatrical movie? Yes. I think it's a distant third, but it is the third best film in the franchise, theatrical film. And number 3, I have the most recent entry, which is Alien Earth, which I really enjoyed. I did a recent review for it. And of course, this is the show was written and showrun by Noah Hawley. It's set in the year 2120. A couple years before the events of the original Alien film and the crew of the Nostromo and their interactions with the xenomorph. And it sets up like this world that's essentially governed by these 5 powerful corporations, including Weyland-Yutani and a new one called Prodigy. And it follows this character of Wendy, who's this first prototype hybrid, a synthetic that's been infused with human consciousness, and the consciousness of a little girl, of a 12-year-old. I'm sure nothing bad will happen with there. And she eventually joins like other hybrids who are a part of this recovery crew to investigate this crash of a Weyland-Yutani freighter that is containing all these deadly specimens, including the xenomorph and others, right? And throughout the multiple episodes that I've seen, which, to be fair, I haven't watched the finale. I think it airs tonight as of this recording. But, it proposes these really cool philosophical questions while also incorporating a lot of the trademark sci-fi horror from the series, from the best films. And again, for the most part, I think it really succeeds. You got some really good performances in the show, like Sydney Chandler, who plays Wendy, I think does a really great job. Really love just, her being caught between her humanity and her synthetic life, I think is great. Babu Sise He's really good as this Weyland-Yutani security officer and scientist, and his character is part human and part machine. He's essentially a cyborg, which I think is a new concept introduced to the Alien franchise, which I really like. And he just has such a great, role in this show. Just constantly going back and forth, like trying to maintain his own humanity, his own memories, but very much like those synthetics of the past, like always about the mission, always like the crew is expendable, like I need to accomplish the mission for Weyland-Yutani, and he has to deal with that constantly throughout the series. I think that's really interesting. And overall, I was just really pleased with a lot of the alien creatures and how they just received a lot of ample attention. This series showcases the xenomorphs more generously than really any of the films in the franchise, blending practical effects with some CGI, but to deliver some really cool moments of terror and fun. And yes, you get the face huggers, of course, you get the chest bursters, you get the adult xenomorphs, but you have a lot of like new creatures as well. You get space ticks. You have this eyeball monster of tentacles, right? That everyone has affectionately started calling Eileen, who's, a schemer, a manipulator, really fun character. And you have some other great performances in it. Like Timothy Olyphant's good. He's underused, but I like him quite a bit. Like I have some issues with the show. It's not perfect. It falters when it comes to like these really overt modern references, and and I have no issues like with the corporate dystopia stuff. That's always been a part of the franchise, so that works fine for me. But there's like a shit ton of Peter Pan metaphors and allegories that's just unnecessary. It like initially starts out as intriguing, but eventually like, all right, this is a little on the nose. I don't really need this. There's like references to like modern films like Ice Age for whatever reason that plays like as like a narrative importance in regards to two characters and their relationship, and it's like. It just feels odd. It's just, you don't really need this. It just felt unnecessary. But again, despite those complaints, I think Alien Earth is really entertaining, and it's a fun watch. It retains large part, the dread and the body horror, all the grotesque alien designs, and it's wrapped up into like a nice exploration of ethics, of one's identity, corporate power, and continues to build the world of Alien in a positive way, in a good way. And it doesn't rely on constant fucking references from the past. It doesn't do any of that, like recreating sequences from any of the original movies, or just dropping dialogue like it's gonna get applause, like similar lines of dialogue from the first. There is no line of like "get away from her, you bitch." There's nothing like that, and that's good. That's really good. And so, yeah, Alien Earth is a pleasant surprise. Some issues, but overall I really enjoyed it. I think it's the third best thing in the franchise. And number two, which might be surprising to some, but at number two, I have, the sequel to the original Alien. I have Aliens. I love this movie. James Cameron's Aliens is in my top 20 favorite films of all time. It's one of the greatest sequels of all time, and it transforms Alien's claustrophobic horror into a really tense, action-driven war film without losing any of its emotional or thematic weight, I think, at the same time. Sigourney Weaver, of course, returns as Ripley, and she elevates Ripley into this mythic status in pop culture, essentially. Her performance earned her an Academy Award nomination, which is kind of rare for the sci-fi and horror genre. Because she just conveys like this fierce determination and this maternal tenderness, and all that just weaves in her character so well. Her relationship with Newt in the movie is great. It comes in such a climactic finish of the line used well, "Get away from her, you bitch." It's what made Ripley an iconic action hero, genre figure. And a ton of other great performances. Carrie Hennis Newt does a great job. She's authentic in her role. She's never cloying. She's never annoying. She's competent. I love a competent kid character. Michael Biehn is Hicks. It really blew up his career. He has this wonderful understated confidence in the movie, balancing a sense of toughness but with warmth. And he has great chemistry with Weaver in the movie. Lance Henriksen. Of course, he was already appearing in other films before this, Terminator, of course. But as Bishop, one of his most iconic roles. You don't know, is he a menacing character based on what we saw before, if it's synthetic, or he's really compassionate. Keeps us guessing as we're watching the movie. Bill Paxton is Hudson. He has all the bravado. He's great comic relief. He managed to undercut some of the undercuts the a lot of the tension in a good way, though. We need it as a breather, if you will. And then again, the rest of the cast is so big and so large and so much fun. Other great lines. Game over, man. Game over. Like, you love it. Cameron's script, he blends a lot of sharp military banter and human emotion and keeps the dread escalating. There's so many iconic scenes. The initial alien ambush in the reactor room, all the chaos exploding, all these tough Marines that were like the baddest of the badasses. They're all scared and terrified as they're overwhelmed by this horrific force of an alien hive. Ripley saving Newt. Her initial descent into the hive of the flamethrower and the rifle, and then finding her, and then seeing the Queen, which was such a great addition to the franchise. The ultimate evolution, metamorphosis of the alien creature. This is what laid all those eggs. And then, of course, the ending with the Power Loader versus the Alien Queen. It's so goddamn good. James Horner's score is so iconic. It's a masterclass in action and suspense music. It's used for years later in so many trailers, so many other films. It's great. And I like the themes of motherhood, of protection. The film essentially like reframes Ripley as a surrogate mother to Newt. We come to find out that she was a mother in the director's cut, which I think is really good. And it creates such a powerful emotional core. At the same time, you have the alien Queen. She mirrors Ripley as the dark maternal figure, embodying just a monstrous version of Ripley's devotion to Newt. And I think what's most important about Aliens is that Aliens doesn't try to retread Alien. It expands the universe. It deepens Ripley's character. And it shifts genre from this haunted house horror in space to a war movie, a combat survival film. It's super rousing. It's a great action epic, but at the same time, it tells like a really nice, deeply human story about trauma, about motherhood, resilience, and all the while just delivering some of the most iconic set pieces in science fiction cinema ever, certainly of the 1980s, which was dominated by some great science fiction pictures. I love the film, and I can see why for a lot of people it's their number one. I totally understand that, but for me, at number one, chat, this comes as no surprise to those that know me, I have Alien. I love this movie. Ridley Scott's Alien is one of the most influential sci-fi horror films ever made. And its greatness comes from how seamlessly its different elements like work together. Like, again, Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley is wonderful. It's her breakout role. She brings this great quiet strength to the character, intelligence to her. She emerges as the film's unlikely hero. You think, it's going to be Tom Skerritt. It's going to be this guy. It's going to be her. It's like, no, it's her. Her performance, I think, balances a lot of vulnerability and grit, making her a very iconic protagonist, and we see that evolution continue on in Aliens. Ian Holm as Ash is great. He's restrained, but he's so unsettling. His performance is so unsettling as this android with these, which we don't know at first, with these hidden motives. It just adds to the chilling layer of corporate betrayal, that's central at the heart of this movie. Even worse than Alien itself. And then a great cast of Yaphet Kotto, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, Tom Skerritt, John Hurt. The ensemble just feels natural and grounded. These are real working class people. These are blue collar space truckers essentially, and they're in place of the scientist characters that we often see in these types of movies, or the military figures we often see in these movies. These are just people just trying to do their fucking job and then go home and enjoy themselves, and they get fucked. I love that the dialogue just feels so naturalistic. Often overlapping each other, which I think is really unique. It grounds it. It's like real coworker speak, and just them complaining about their shitty jobs, their tedious fucking space trucking jobs. It grounds these extraordinary events and situations in reality. And I love just the film's slow reveal of this information, particularly about Ash and the company, about Wayland fucking Yutani building better worlds. It keeps the tension simmering throughout. And then you have so many great iconic scenes. The initial discovery of the alien spacecraft and John Hurt getting the facehugger attached to him. The chestburster sequence still is one of the most shocking moments in horror film history, mixing body horror, surprise, and just sheer raw human panic of what are we supposed to do in this type of situation. You have the whole scene of Ripley's final escape. It's so claustrophobic. like like as she's getting to the escape pod and then stripping down and thinking like, oh, everything's fine, but the alien's on board and she has to figure out how to get this thing off it. How's she going to survive? We have no idea. The whole sequence of Tom Skerritt's Dallas and the air shafts, textbook example of suspense editing and sound design. All the dialogue layer on top of that, the music, the sound design, ratcheting up the drum before the creature. I'm going to hug you. It's perfect. Brett's death. Harry Dean Stanton's character's death, with trying to find the cat Jonesy. Seeing the reveal of the alien, which is so kind of like, it's like in this almost like Christ-like pose, like hanging up there, and then finally coming down behind him and then revealing itself in these up close. I love how they don't show the creature in its entirety throughout the film until really the end where you finally do see it. Like, you see bits and pieces of it. You see parts of it. And it just makes it so... It lets your mind fill in the gaps. It's great filmmaking. Great cinematography. Jerry Goldsmith's score, I think, is wonderful, alternating between this eerie restraint and, like, the swelling dread. It makes use of silence, I think, quite well, too. Really great use of science. And again, just the body horror in this movie. I'm a huge body horror fan. And I feel like the alien's life cycle echoes our fears of impregnation, of pregnancy, of birth. Essentially flipping the reproductive imagery, which is supposed to be like this beautiful thing, into something that is so terrifying and so monstrous. The alien's essentially a parasite. In some, just aliens, its greatness lies in a combination of things. These really naturalistic performances, the stripped down but precise writing that makes it feel grounded, iconic scenes of dread and horror, the suffocating cinematography, which is so good. It's wonderful score. Its themes of corporate exploitation, of survival, of reproduction. It remains both a terrifying horror film and just a profound work of science fiction. I love this movie. And that, my friends, is my ranking of the Alien franchise. I'm sure our lists are a little different from each other, but that's okay. That's totally fine. But yeah, I really love Alien. I really love Aliens, and most recently, I've been really enjoying Aliens. And the other thing I should have said at the top too, like there's a number of other entries in the franchise that I enjoy. A number of the books and comics, video games, most certainly. I would have loved to have included those, but this list would have been going on very long. Plus, we've had some technical difficulties tonight, so that would have been very frustrating. But some other things I want to shout out: love Alien Isolation, which is a prequel sequel to Aliens, essentially taking place in between Alien and Aliens, and you're following Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda Ripley, who's trying to find out what happened to her mother, trying to find her mother, which I think is very good. Her encounter with the xenomorph, with the alien, I think is great. And there's tons of other books that I've read over the years, and I'm curious to see where the franchise is going to go from here. I think Predator's been a little bit more successful recently with things like Prey. Predator Badlands looks pretty badass. I think Dan Trachtenberg has a real good grip on the franchise. Alien, listen, I'm very mixed on Romulus, as you guys know, as I just said, but it does do some things right. I think Alien Earth is a much better step in the right direction for the series. But I'm curious to see what they're going to do. They're going to make another theatrical Alien movie, and I hope it's great. I really do. But yeah, the franchise has its weak moments, no question. But man, its highs are so goddamn high. And those, again, these two movies, especially Alien and Aliens, I can watch anytime, and I frequently do multiple times a year. I think they're perfect organism. What about you, chat? How would you rank the Alien movies? What's your definitive ranking? You want to incorporate Earth? Feel free.
5 minutes later.
Let's hear. Jug, I think I only saw the prequels. Really? And don't remember much about them. I need to cut out time to watch all of them. You only saw the prequels. Wow. Well, watch Alien Aliens, Jug. Watch Alien Aliens. I encourage you. I really do encourage you. Yeah, the first Alien vs. Predator is dumb fun. I agree, Hamilton. Chris, I truly don't get the thinking behind deepfake Eno Home. If it has to be Eno Home rather than another character, either use an animatronic since the character has no bottom half, yes. And you could get away with it pretty easily. Or just find an actor who looks close enough to young Eno Home and then get the resemblance closer using makeup. It's both less expensive than the deepfake and it looks better. Yeah, I know. I really just don't understand their thinking of wanting to bring back that character, even though it didn't look right. It's like just create, like, the franchise is filled with different synthetic, like I just named some. I mean, the movie has one. It has Andy, who's wonderful. David Johnson, he's the standout in that film. And you just could have made him a different synthetic. That would have been a first, kind of, as far as I know. No, I guess it wouldn't have been a first, because Alien Covenant did the whole good synthetic, bad synthetic. But this would have been interesting. Like, it could have done it better. Like, here, you have the good synthetic and Andy, who's corrupted, and then you have, like, this evil synthetic, the Rook. You could have cast anyone in that role, and you could have had the bail damage. That would have been interesting, but I don't know why they did that. It's very bizarre, very bizarre. Initially, they were like, "Oh, we're super excited about it. People are going to get a kick out of this," and I think most people didn't like it. I mean, there's some people that did, sure. You know, there's always going to be people that, you know, whether I like, you might dislike, vice versa. But yeah, they got a lot of pushback for that. And then later on, like, Alvarez been like, "Yeah, it looked like shit. We're going to fix it," and they fixed it, and it still looks bad. So I don't know. Hamilton Gergen, thank you. I think Alien Romulus feels like an Alien property than Alien Earth, but Alien Earth gets props for introducing new concepts. Right. So it's hard to choose for me which one I like more. I will have to watch tonight's final episode and see how it leaves things up. Sure, that's the thing. Like, it could really shit the bed. And there's another people that don't like this show. You know, I've read some criticisms and things, and I don't necessarily. There's some things I do agree with. Again, I'm like, there's some, like, parts of how it's shot. Like, there's these weird transitions where we have footage on top of footage on top of footage. I'm like, I don't like this. It's a cacophony of imagery, and I don't know what you're doing. And then there's the Peter Pan shit, and, like, I get it. You know, the kids, like, you know, they're essentially immortal now. They're never really going to grow up because they're in these bodies that won't age. Like, I totally understand, but I don't need to have, like, the main villain then read passages out of Peter Pan. Like, I get it. I get it, Noah. And then the whole, and this one I can let slide a little bit more. It's like, okay, the whole Ice Age thing, it's just weird. It's like, why? I shouldn't talk shit. Like, I like the first Ice Age. I've seen the second one, didn't like it. I've never seen any of the other ones. And it's just weird that and I know because Disney owns it now, and it's part of 20th Century Studios, and it's like, okay, I know, but that pick a better animated film, or and I guess make like an animated thing that's set in the world of these movies, right? It just kind of takes me out of it a little bit. So, but I think the other things are deserve more attention. Yeah, I'm an Alien over Aliens guy myself. The slasher and space aspect of Alien appealed to me more. Yeah, no, I really like that too. I think it's really fun. Yeah, it's like a gothic slasher film in space. But I love Aliens as well. Like, Alien is like in my top 10. Aliens is in my top 20. They're still amazing movies. I haven't watched Earth yet, but I would describe Romulus like this. It's kind of like watching one of the better Disney or Star Wars projects, and then some douchebag comes in and changes the channel to Red Scar for the last 20 minutes. Fair enough. Luke Bus, I totally messed up my comment low. Basically, I was trying to say that Alien Romulus feels more like an Alien property than Alien. No. I understand what you're saying. It just feels like, well, you know, we gotta make this. I mentioned the 80s were sci-fi as fuck. No, they really were. That's why you get, like, it's always fucking weird to me. You get, like, certain filmmakers. Quentin Tarantino's like, the 80s were one of the worst periods for film. It's like, shut the fuck up, Quentin Tarantino. It's like, shut up. It's like, there were so many amazing movies in the 1980s, especially genre films, which really blew up. You know, I agree. I mean, the 80s had some fucking bangers. Some bangers. Agreed. Bishop, this is his ranking. Aliens, Alien 3. Really? Wow. Romulus, Prometheus, AVP, Alien 4, Covenant, AVP 2. I feel like a lot of us probably have AVP 2 last. Alien 3, you're a big Alien 3 fan. Fair enough. You're not alone. I've seen a lot of people like Alien 3. A lot of people have done kind of like video essays breaking down why they appreciate it. For other great Alien games, there's the AVP. There's a shit ton of AVP games. There's a ton. Clean 94 one. Capcom beat 'em up. The early 2000s for sure. I had a lot of those. Alien 3 had a decently fun and creepy SNES game with atmospheric music and sound effects. Jug, I came up alongside these movies, but never actually watched them. Probably because I was like maybe 5 with the. Fair enough. I watched Alien when I was 10 on like HBO when I wasn't supposed to, and I really liked that. Traumatized me, but I loved it. Had a fucking lasting impact. No question. Aliens and Alien are at the top. Duh. I'm more of an Aliens guy personally. Nothing wrong with that. I respect it. Steep drop off to Romulus, which I describe as passable. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I guess that's how I would describe it too. I would describe it as passable. I'll drop off not very passable of AVP 1, 3, the assembly cut. There's also the various cuts of Alien 3. There's the one where it's a cow and sometimes it's a dog, and I can't keep track of them. I feel like I've seen both. Maybe. But again, I haven't watched Alien 3 since I did my spoiler review for it a few years ago. It's been a hot minute. Which, hey, if you guys want to check out my scene by scene by scene breakdowns for any of these movies, they're on my YouTube channel right now. The exception of Romulus. I have to do Romulus. But all the other ones are up there. I did a regular review for Romulus. You can check that out. But this is coming in even bigger, dropped shitty, but kind of amusing Resurrection. Resurrection's not... I don't like that movie, but I think I like it more than a lot of the other sequels. But it is... Believe me, it has issues. And then a bomb's fucking pit of hell for A.V. Requiem. Yeah, I'll get there soon in the show. I'm already on the planet. Yeah, you're already on the planet. Yeah, watch the first 5 Ice Ages with 6 coming. I don't think I want to do that. They could all be good. They could all be good for I know, but I don't know. I like the first one quite a bit. I think most people do. It's like, it's a fun film. Post my neck. Thank you for the raid. Witness me. Sorry. I had tons of technical difficulties, so my alerts might be all off right now. But thank you for the very kind raid. Good to see you. Why didn't Spaceballs make the list? Yeah. I guess it would. It has an Alien scene, a reference. It's a parody. Aliens vs. Aliens, like the movie equivalent of Blondes vs. Brunettes. You're not going to go wrong with either one. Fair enough. Yeah. Yes. Good to see you, Post Nick. Thank you for the raid. I'm sorry that the alert was off. I had some issues before. I had to stop the stream and it pissed me off. A's had The Fly, Terminator, RoboCop. John Carpenter's The Thing. I mean, just look around my apartment. Some real good shit. Some real good either pure sci-fi or sci-fi horror. Blade Runner. Trailers, I was desensitized at a very young age. My parents let me watch horror movies when I was probably about 4. It was probably one of the first movies I ever seen. Wow. A2, baby? Yeah, A2. Something Cut 3 is better. It makes more sense, but still just kind of fundamentally broken. Yeah, it's just like this is just a mess. I don't blame David Fincher. I don't think anyone blames David Fincher. It's not his fault. I remember the first time Alien really sunk in my head. Yeah, me too. And then Russia has a director's cut that's objectively better, but that thing that ruins it is still there. I don't think I've seen the director's cut. I can't remember. If I have, I don't remember. I don't think I ever have. There's something weird about Earth referencing the 20th century and early 21st century media. Oh yeah, there's another thing too. I forgot. There's a Jackie Robinson like sequence, like the baseball player. I was like, this is weird. Beer Pan book makes sense. It's been a staple for 100 years already. But Ice Age, I know. And I'm fine with the initial like allegory for Peter Pan. Like these kids are trapped in these bodies and they're never gonna age. Like I think that's fine. It's just that it has these then moments of, and it's throughout all these episodes of a character like literally reading passages of, and just before that, you had a scene where something happens like, oh, it's kind of like Peter Pan, and then you'll have later on, either right afterwards or at some point in the episode, you'll have a character then will just basically describe that sequence that scene earlier was referencing in the Peter Pan book. I'm like, you don't need to do that. You know, it's almost like Noah Hawley is like, these fucking morons aren't gonna get it. And I'm like, I get it, Noah, I get it. But you know, it's just a couple of criticisms, but that's like the big one for me. It's not a deal breaker. That'd be also my rankings: Alien, Aliens, AVP, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, Romulus, Covenant, and Requiem goes in the trash. Everyone has Requiem down there. You know, there's an Alien vs. Predator Japanese anime in the vault, right? No, I did not know that. If Fincher hadn't gotten fucked with, 3 might have been awesome. Alas, yeah, God, it just starts in such a way where it just made me like, whoa, what the fuck, man? Like, did he want to? I guess I don't know. Like, if that was always the plan. I'm not saying he wanted this, but like, was the script like it was always going to start with like Newton Hicks dying? It's just such a bizarre choice. I just don't get that. I think it's the most frequently criticized thing about that movie, and deservedly so. Apparently, Michael Biehn, though, he got fully paid because they used his likeness without his permission. And he got paid for that, like his exact salary from Aliens. He's like, fuck yeah, I didn't have to do any work. Brad Dourif doing Brad Dourif things, let her have a resurrection still low. It's very funny. A beautiful butterfly. He wanted to fuck those aliens like really hard. Then he's like, yeah, let's go. It's like, dude, please. Just go on DeviantArt, man. Just go on DeviantArt. Oh, God.